Good evening, everyone. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Law of New Jersey, notice of this May 11th, 2021 meeting of the Bridgewater Raritan Regional Board of Education was posted electronically on the district website and provided on May 7th, 2021 by sending a 48-hour written notice to the Courier News, Star Ledger, Bridgewater Township Clerk, Raritan Borough Clerk, and by posting on the bulletin board in the Harmon V. Wade Administration Building. As this is a virtual meeting, those unable to access the meeting via the internet are able to listen in by dialing into the conference line 1-415-655-0001, access code 182-258-0489. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Ms. Levitt? Mr. Singer?
Here.
Ms. Sandler?
Here.
Ms. Hurley?
Here.
Ms. Gladstone?
Here.
Mr. Stars, I think you may be on mute.
No, I can hear him, Jackie.
I hear him. I hear him too.
I hear him.
Ms. Lee?
Here.
Mr. Joshi?
Present.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
Mrs. Barlow?
Mr. Stars, I can't hear you.
We can.
Everybody else seems to be able to hear me.
You know,
Okay, sure.
her speaker may be off from a different meeting.
And Ms. Levitt, can you just say present?
Yes, I'm here.
Thanks. Can you hear us now, Ms. Barlow?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry about that. Were you guys able to hear me earlier?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody's here and accounted for.
Okay. Sounds good. We are now up to item 5 on the agenda, closed session. Whereas discussion by the board is required on matters that are exceptions to the requirement that a public body hold its meetings in public, and whereas the topics for discussion are personnel and board attorney consultation. Whereas it is expected that the details of the discussion may be made public as soon as the issues may be acted upon publicly. Be it resolved that the board enter into closed session at this time. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, we are now in closed session. Good evening, everyone. We are now back from our closed session, and we're up to item 6 on the agenda, the student representatives report.
Hi. So for academics, 71 students took the National Latin exam. Every student passed the exam, and 63 students earned an award. 31 earned a gold summa cum laude, 13 earned a silver maxima cum laude, 9 earned a magna cum laude, 4 earned a cum laude. In addition, 2 students, Elvis George and Christine Hu, achieved perfect scores. We also had 6 seniors earn eligibility to apply for a $2,000 scholarship. Students have officially started taking their AP exams as of May 3rd. These will continue in person for the next few days and then switch to the digital administrations in following weeks. BRHS held an SAT on May 8th. Students taking the exam were instructed to follow all safety precautions regarding COVID-19, including mask wearing and appropriately distanced test taking. With the start of full-time in-person schooling at the high school, about 1,000 students have been attending school daily. For athletics, this week's athletics report includes scores from baseball, which was 8-1, boys golf, which was tied 3-3 in second place SEI AA championships. Girls golf is 15-0, the Skyline Conference team tournament champions. Skyland Conference Divisional Champions, second place SEI AA tournament, qualified for the NJSI AA team tournament, and they will compete in the NJSI AA state tournament at Stanton Ridge Country Club. And for girls, and on Monday, May 10th, boys lacrosse had a record of 4-2. Girls lacrosse had a record from 6-1. Boys volleyball 6-3. Softball 4-7, and boys tennis 7-1.
So continuing from what Renmai was saying, boys and girls track and field have been competing in several meets and invitationals, as well as the SCIAA relays, turning in several outstanding individual performances. Both teams are preparing for the upcoming Skyland Conference Championships on Thursday, May 20th, and SCIAA Championships on Monday, May 24th. Also, congratulations to the Banther girls swim team on being named NJ.com Girls Swim Team of the Year for the 2021 season. This team was also ranked number 1 on the NJ.com 2021 final top 20. The Panther girls swim team, led by head coach Chris Levine, won 4 straight NJSIAA Public A state championships from 2016 through 2019 before dropping a very close decision to Cherry Hill East in the 2020 finals. The team received the NJ.com number 1 ranking in 2017, 2018, and 2019. In addition, the team won the 2021 Skyland Conference Delaware Division title for the 6th consecutive season, so congratulations to them. As for student life, the class and student council election self-nomination form went live on April 30th, 2021, and closed at 3 p.m. on Friday, May 7th. Several clubs, such as Forensics and Model UN, are wrapping up for the year, and they are all reflecting on the unique experience of holding meetings virtually due to the pandemic. BRHS students Melanie Toms, Heather Thorne, and Hannah Melnarung won awards in the Young Writers Short Story and Poetry Contest. Youth Leadership Somerset, a leadership development program for Somerset County youth entering grades 9 through 12, is accepting applications for the 2021-2022 program year, which runs from September through May. Classes are held on one Saturday per month, for approximately 5 hours. The application deadline is Sunday, May 23rd. On May 4th, the Student Council, along with the League of Women Voters, held voter registration outside the cafeteria after school. And the Army would like to hold a virtual meeting on May 13th at 1:15 p.m. for anyone interested in a career or wants to learn more. The Army is committed to assisting students in making the choices that can help them achieve all of their overall goals for this year. And that's our report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Polina and Mermai. Really appreciate you sharing the news. And you're welcome to stay, but also understand if you have to study for exams or anything, please feel free to do so. And we are now up to the superintendent's report. I will turn it over to Dr. Ficara.
Dr. Ficara, you're muted, I believe.
How about now?
Good.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, unmuted. I thought this evening I would just go over a few facts about from where we started and where we are at the moment in terms of the percent of days students can attend in-person instruction. So we took a graph, went back to the beginning of the school year, and we're looking here at the K6, grades K to 6. At the bottom left, you see September 8th. That's when we opened with all virtual instruction, no in-person instruction. We moved out to October 12th, where we began a hybrid instruction with 40% of instructional time, students having in-person days 40% of the time. And that included virtual Wednesdays. And then there's this long flat line, that long march through November, December, and January, which was the holiday period. And we focused primarily on remaining open for in-person instruction, just barely hanging on despite staffing challenges presented by teachers and staff members and students being asked to quarantine because of contact tracing. On March 3rd, we eliminated virtual Wednesdays, bringing the percent of days students can attend in-person instruction to 50%. On March 8th, we took another step forward and we monitored our enrollments and progressed to 3/4 cohorts for the grades K to 6, meaning at that time that the percent of days that students could attend in person for K to 6 was up to 75%. And then on March 24th, the new CDC and the New Jersey DOH guidance changed from 6 feet social distancing to 3 feet for grades K through 6. And we now have, this enabled us to provide K to 6 students 5 days a week in person on a daily basis. So we went from 0 in-person days in September to 100% of daily attendance. Next slide. The middle school was similar, starting in September and then opening in hybrid into October and barely hanging on, but we did hang on in the middle school as well and stayed open during those holiday spikes. And then in March 3rd, we did away with the virtual Wednesdays to make way for more in-person instruction. And that brought the percentage of days students could attend in person for grades 7 and 8 up to 50%. And then on October 17th, when the NJDOH report changed our regional risk level from high to moderate, we quickly opened 5 days a week, 7 to 12, while maintaining the existing schedule. And again, we have the percent of days students can attend in person for grades 7 to 8 currently is at 100%. The next is the high school graph. Again, somewhat similar and with a few changes. Again, opening all virtual September, jumping up to 33% hybrid for the high school because of the size. We had to go to an ABC cohort. Then in November, we remained that way through November, December, and January. And then on February 8th, we were able to move from an ABC cohort to an AB cohort, thereby changing our percent from 33% to 50%. And once again, on April 17th, the risk level dropped for the whole district, and that enabled the high school to attend 5 days a week. So I wanted to look back and show a representative graph of how we slowly progressed from 0 attendance to 100% daily attendance. And when I reflect back over the school year, from where we started to where we are now, I think it's clear that the steady, measured approach to opening in-person instruction in the first global pandemic of our lifetimes was the correct path. We arrived here in the 4th marking period at a time when all students choosing in-person instruction are able to attend daily. I'm proud of the path, the measured path, the professional path that we took by following the professional guidance. I'm also proud of the work to be working with a dedicated staff who kept us open continuously from October. Despite the weeks when several hundred staff members and students were quarantined, which caused severe dislocations in our staffing. The teachers did double duty. Staff at all levels pitched in to keep our schools open, but at no time did we veer from the NJDOH or the CDC guidelines. And I'm also proud to have worked with a board that trusted my judgment to resist decisions based on negative or positive predictions about the spread of the virus. We neither closed preemptively based on media predictions of massive spreads after the holidays, nor did we open schools prematurely based on local pressure and opinions touting positive projections regarding the virus. Instead, in the first pandemic of our lifetimes, we did the prudent thing. We followed the guidance of the medical community. By following professional health advice, we were able to increasingly progress safely to more and more in-person instruction, culminating in our current state in which students choosing in-person instruction are able to attend school daily. We will continue in this vein. Next slide. And I want to assure the public and that the district is planning 5 full days a week of in-person instruction under the current guidelines for September 2021. Right? So I want to be clear. I'll say it again. We want to assure the district, the public, that the district is planning for 5 full days of in-person instruction under the current guidelines for September 2021. I've also received a number of emails and had conversations with parents who are concerned that if we go back in September 5 full days, does that mean that there will be no all virtual option? And as I explained and wanted to take a few minutes tonight to explain, we are planning to have an all virtual option. So if that option is available to us by the governor, we are prepared and have been prepared to supply that. And the reason I say by the governor is if we prepare for an all virtual option, but the Department of Education through the governor's office decides that a student cannot get credit on an all virtual option, there would be nothing we could do about that. But we are also prepared, and I believe, regardless of what decisions were made in Trenton, to provide accommodations for children who need those accommodations. And I've heard from many parents over the last few weeks whose children have personal needs that would clearly qualify for accommodations. And I do not see any problem with meeting those accommodations. So we are prepared for an all virtual option, and we are prepared to provide as much virtual as we are able to provide when the Department of Ed gives out a blanket guidance. But we're also prepared to go beyond that to children who have some special needs and special needs for accommodations. And I believe the virtual option will always be here for a certain segment of the population of our student body. And that's all I have. Any questions from the board? Okay.
I am not seeing any.
Me, Jackie.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Lynn. I'm sorry.
So I just want to clarify when you say all virtual. I completely understand that there are kids that are going to need to have that virtual option. They'll need home instruction, as we would call it, and that can be done virtually. But are you saying that it's going to be an option for anybody, or are you saying that it's for those, provided that the governor says, yep, full day, which is what
So-
we're all hoping for, right? And we
What
better
we-
have,
What we
but
now is that, which we never had before, was that the governor mandated that we must provide a virtual option. So that's what's in place now. And then the governor made some statements about not having that next year, and then made some statements about that were somewhat vague about that. So when I say that we are prepared, we have prepared to create virtual options. If he maintains the current status, we have to maintain a virtual option for anyone who chooses it. If he says you cannot have a virtual option, that would prevent us from, not that we could still provide it, but if a student couldn't get credit and couldn't graduate or couldn't move on, then obviously those rules are set by the Department of Education. As you know, when we have graduation, we have to certify that students met all the needs. So the governor left that open-ended, and we're still waiting for that guidance from the state of New Jersey and the Department of Ed. Last year, it didn't come until the last few days of June. I suspect something like that will happen again. What I wanted to get across is that there are some people who have special needs. And I think while those special needs were never accommodated, at least to my knowledge, in a virtual manner, I don't think that, I think the virtual is here to stay for children who have special needs and will
and
need.
that's what I was just trying to clarify. If we go back, please, we're back 5 full days. That virtual option, to me, I'm seeing it as as a home instruction option for those that require home instruction because of those needs. Not now we're opening
So, yeah,
homeschool.
I'm just indicating that I don't know if the governor is going to see it that way. So if he
Okay.
says virtual option must be offered, then we must offer it. If he says virtual option cannot be offered as an alternative to in-person school, then we will not be able to offer it, but we will consider accommodations
Right.
and review them person by person. It's really dependent on what the governor's guidance is going to say.
Hi, Miss Dr. Vaquera. So question for what it meant by accommodation. So if yes, if Murphy, like Governor Murphy says that, okay, we're not gonna be allowing for the virtual, then what accommodation that we can do for the special needs students?
So
Isn't it like particular precaution things that we can do at school, or what other options that we could have for those kids?
well, they would have to be on a case-by-case basis, and a number of people that I spoke to this week described situations where I believe with doctor's notes and medical diagnosis that we would be granting an accommodation in that manner.
Oh,
But it
thank
would be a
you.
case-by-case basis.
Okay, thanks.
Dr. Fakar, I have a question on when that information will be collected and surveyed so that staffing needs can be determined. I understand, I assume scheduling is starting soon and will continue over summer, but I assume at some point you're going to need to know where the staff is being put for that option.
Yeah, so we will start that sooner rather than later. We're hoping that the guidance comes out on that, but we will be putting the same kind of survey out that we had last year, that if there's an available option for a hybrid, all virtual, would you be willing, or is that your choice? So certainly before the end of school year.
Thank you.
I guess we need to
I think we budgeted on staffing based on an enrollment of 19, not 2021, correct? Because I would expect if we go back full
That's
in
correct.
person in the fall, that we should recover some of the students that departed.
I believe so, and that we did budget on the prior year staffing.
And I guess that would be a scheduling issue also to keep the leverage there. We know how many, we actually have numbers of the grades where they left and where they'd be coming back to, so we could actually have good estimations on that.
That's correct.
It doesn't look like there's any other questions. I think we're good to move on. Dr. Ficara, are we doing the seal of biliteracy presentation at this point?
Karen, do you have Maria on?
Yep, Maria is on here. Maria?
Yes, can you
Okay, you're sharing.
hear me? Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay.
So Maria, introduce yourself first.
Hi, my name is Maria Costas. I'm the K-12 supervisor of world language and ESL. Some of the teachers were having technical issues. I believe there are 2 on this meet with me. Lucinda Jaffe, Latin teacher, Shilpa Wakti, French teacher. Shilpa will read French, Lucinda will read Latin, I will read the rest. We want to begin by congratulating the class of 2021. We are extremely proud of these seniors, many of which are still virtual. And we are proud that we were able to have 96 Seal of Biliteracy awards earned this year in multiple languages. So congratulations to everyone for earning this wonderful achievement. So I'm going to begin with—
Maria, can you just tell everyone what the Seal of Biliteracy award, what the Seal of Biliteracy test is?
Sure, I'm sorry. So this initiative started in 2016 and we started in Bridgewater in 2017. It's an award that is earned by students. You have to be in your senior year because this is awarded upon graduation. It's on your transcript. If you take a test and earn a certain score to demonstrate that you are proficient in another language and also meet your graduation requirement in English, then you earn what's called the Seal of Biliteracy. So these seniors this year did take the test via computer-based proctoring. It's something that was approved nationwide for students. So they did take the test, all of them at home, and they got a certain score that demonstrated they are proficient in either the world language that they're studying in school, their heritage language, or a second language. Should I begin?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, for Chinese, we have Matthew Dong. Is someone next? Anya Gu and Hannah Zhang. Ms. Wakti, are you here for French?
Yes. Can you hear
Okay.
me, Madame Costas? Can you hear me?
Oui.
Okay.
Here, yeah.
Merci. So, Veena Arun Kumar, Evelyn Atkins, Shivani Chawla, Douglas D'Souza, Simon Duddleback, Anam Fazal, Dana Gallion, Sophie Ganapolsky, Maya Gharat, Trisha Ghosh, Sophie Gilles, Ella Hanley, Nicole Herrera, Daniela Witzel, Priya Kansal, Vidushi Kataria, Adhika Kathuria, Adhya Khanvilkar, Prajit Kundu, Hovan Liu, Howard Liu, Rishikesh Manche, David Mead, Rachel Mesa, Riya Mukhopadhyay, Joanna Nasian, Neha Pai, Sahitya Sampat Kumar, Teddy Sarkis, Avantika Srinivasan, Sharan Srinivasan, Nicole Sider, Adam Trabelsi, Mrinmay Ubgade, Jeffrey Zhao, Dylan Zinsky. Do you want me to read the German? Or?
You can read German, that's fine, continue.
Okay, Karsten Hanch, Ishan Hemigge, Avantika Khanna, Eric Reinhardt, Aditi Sathe, Teresa Schmeisser, Jillian Young.
Okay, for Italian, we have Alexa George and Joanna Nacion.
For Latin, Jared Ben David, Jimmy Chen, Jeffrey Chang, Natalie Garcia, Gia Gadagankar, Matthew Hu, Kristen C., Sarth Kenny, Ananya Mishra, Tanisha Nasheen, Ellie Pan, Shruti Roy, Mark Rydberg, Maya Sharkey, Nikitha Shivakumar, Navya Sinha, Ananya Warang, Rebecca Zhang.
For Spanish, we have Mahmoud Abdelakar, Shreya Ashok, McKeegan Brown, Melanie Chaparro Mendez, Brenna Chatha, Casey Choi, Katia Kunha, Alex Fortin, Jack Fryer, Aditya Gadakonkar, Evan Gladstone, Brian Gutierrez Benos, Samia Gupta, Christina Guzman, Nicole Herrera, Daniela Witzel, Ananya Jambikar, Alec Oliveira, Keishan Patel, Samantha Paz, Sophia Pedro, Sophia Pedroso, Ever Portillo, Abigail Puskin, Mahika Shrivastava, Kapiltha Samanga Uvajara, Nicole Vale, and Elder Valiz. We have Arabic, we have Mahmoud Abdelakar, and Portuguese, Alec Oliveira. And I wanted to end by saying that we did have several students that earned the seal of biliteracy in more than one language, and we're very proud of them. Mahmoud Abdelakar in Spanish and Arabic, Daniela Witzel in French and Spanish, Joanna Nacion in French and Italian, and she is not a native speaker of either of those languages. Alec Oliveira in Portuguese and Spanish, and Nicole Herrera in French and Spanish. We are extremely proud of all of you, and congratulations to all of you, and thank you to all of the teachers for all that you do to prepare the students. And we have a special video presentation we will be emailing to all the parents, and I will tweet it after this meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes,
Yes.
Jen, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question. But yeah, first of all, congratulations to all the kids, and thank you for all the world language teachers. Did such a wonderful job and make our children successful in different languages. My question for you is that how many components are in this type of competition? Like, okay, was that only for the like a writing test, or as an what were the parts? Were there any listening or verbal type of assessment in there?
For the modern languages, that's anything except for Latin. There is listening, reading, speaking, and writing. So they do have to demonstrate proficiency in all 4 areas of language.
So if the test was hosted at home, like, and then you're saying, right, that is through the computer. So
Yes.
so everything was just like generated from the computer, and people taking it at the same time, or they could choose their own time to do the test.
They could choose to do it at their own time. The company made sure that they ensured that it was done in a way that would ensure that there was integrity in the exam.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you. Outstanding achievement from many, many students. So that is really great to hear.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Ficarra, did you have anything else? I think you're on mute.
Keep doing that. Just congratulations to the staff and students, and thank you very much for your work.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank you.
great evening.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay, we are now up to the president's report. I want to provide another update on the superintendent search. The search is progressing very well. We held the 3rd round of interviews last night, and we're on target for closing the search out at our next board meeting on May 25th. We have seen many outstanding candidates and anticipate appointing a person that can lead Bridgewater Rare into the next level. With respect to COVID, the school district, as Dr. Ficarra mentioned in the superintendent report, we continue to offer increased in-person instruction as the CDC, New Jersey Department of Health, and local health officials have indicated in their guidelines that it's safe to do so. Now all students who want to be in person are able to do that and be in person 5 days a week. And those who opt for virtual at this time still have that opportunity. In the fall, the district is moving forward with the 5 full days, with those requiring virtual due to special circumstances like medical being an option there to have that accommodation. So again, as Dr. Ficarra mentioned, our plan for the fall is to be open 5 full days a week and to have all students be able to attend in person, with the virtual option based on what the New Jersey Department of Education allows, and with the appropriate accommodations based on individual circumstances. And that was it for the superintendent's report. Again, wishing everyone to stay safe and healthy and to perform an act of random kindness to help defeat hate. We are now up to the vice president's report. Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Mrs. Barlow. A little update in the calendar is we had our end of year staff reviews in closed session. I think we issue the ability climate survey sometime this month. Approve the rubrics for the coming year. Review and approve the triannual technology plan. I think that's coming in June. We've discussed. We've had the last day for the public hearing. It was May 7th. We did that already, and we adopted the budget. We have to start with soon, probably next meeting, next closed session, to prepare the CSA evaluation and Rice, the superintendent. And then following up in June, the year is wrapping up. We report on the board goals. Probably schedule retreat, but we may want to wait on that for the potential coming forward. The superintendent completes the goals portion of the evaluation, and the board completes the evaluation form. We finalize the evaluation, and then do that. Next is the staff student recognition awards and for retirees in June. And we also have the second update on the pending legal matters. And then we'll have an end of year strategic report goals in June. So that's all I have, I think, at the moment.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Walker. We are now up to the committee reports, first with academic with Mrs. Gladstone.
Thank you. Academic Committee met April 29th at 6:30 p.m. In attendance, besides myself, was Lynn Hurley, AJ Joshi, Jessica Levitt, and Mrs. Jones, Dr. Ficara, Dr. Greenberg, and Dr. Godown from the high school. Our first topic was an update on PBSIS, and I'm going to explain that. And it's a little detailed because it's so important. And I asked Ms. Jones for a little more detail so I could talk more about it because we were very excited. Dr. Godown and Dr. Greenberg provided an update on what is PBSIS. It stands for Positive Behavior Support in Schools. This is a multi-year partnership with Rutgers University and Robert Wood Johnson School of Medicine in collaboration with the NJDOE, through which the high school team is working with a coach to create and implement a multi-tiered system of support for behavior, conduct, and social emotional wellness that promotes equity for all students. During the update, Dr. Godown and Dr. Greenberg reviewed drafts of surveys that will be administered to staff, students and parents. Actually, they went out just a couple of days ago, which will help them identify 3 focus areas for establishing school-wide expectations, such as being respectful, empathetic, tolerant, and kind. Dr. Godown and Dr. Greenberg reviewed the focus of recent meetings. 1, establishing a list of culturally responsive school-wide expectations. 2, developing an expectation matrix that translate the school-wide expectations into area-specific actions. 3, planning a visual identity consisting of a logo and tagline development. 4, planning for poster layout to display the area-specific expectations. And finally, developing student, staff, parent survey to identify 3 culturally responsive overarching school-wide expectations. Surveys did go out, and this is basically, it's a great system and data-driven, working with the professionals at the university and School of Medicine on working towards a more positive culture to help all students and provide equity. Will be updated as time moves on, and hopefully this type of program could be a model to bring down to the lower grades in the future. Any questions before I go ahead? Okay. Next, Ms. Jones gave us an update on cycle changes at the middle school, explaining that the district was unable to hire a certified teacher for the 7th grade sewing cycle that will be posting. So instead of that, since we were unable, we would be posting advertising for a theater teacher for next year for the cycle. This was a recommendation that came out of last year's Performing Arts Program evaluation. Next year, Ms. Jones will work with supervisors and middle school administration to assess the current cycle program in light of the 2020 standards that must be implemented by September 2022. Dr. Craig, supervisor of performing arts and performing arts, will work with teachers this summer to write curriculum for the theater cycle. The committee was very happy to hear about that. I mean, even though it's too bad we can't find the sewing, but theater is part of the standards, and it'll be great to have that. Any questions? Okay. Next, we heard about a doctoral capstone project request. Ms. Jones reviewed a teacher request for approval of a doctoral capstone project, which will involve the development of a PLC, that's Professional Learning Community, at the middle school to explore how to effectively implement the best practice of independent reading and how to leverage the practice to support differentiation and the inclusion of diverse texts and voices. This project will not involve students and does not support recommendations that came out of the ELA program. It's supported by this is just to run by the committee, and it's supported by the district and academic committee. Any questions from the board on that? Okay. Then we had a brief update on, we reviewed a policy that was adopted previously to incorporate the NJDOE requirements. This is concerning the LGBTQ and persons with disabilities curricula as part of the requirements, which will be part of the health and PE curricula. There are also comprehensive new standards for health and physical education that must be aligned by September 2022. Next, we had an update on the hybrid and virtual learning. We had an update regarding possible changes to the high school master schedule for next year due to working with central office to talk about lunch, having 1 or 2 lunches with a block schedule or rotating block. They're working that out and maintaining the 9-period day, increasing the number of lunch periods. All of this is being looked at by the administration. All schedules are planned in anticipation of running full day regardless of restrictions, like we heard earlier from Dr. Ficara. Next, Ms. Jones provided an update related to the planning for summer learning programs. Students were identified using district data, and they were invited to attend the 2-hour in-person English language arts, mathematics, or 4-hour ELA, English language arts or mathematics programs. There are a total of 360 students who plan to participate across the district. In addition to this invitation-only program in K through 11th grade, there will also be asynchronous enrichment and reinforcement offered through a summer learning platform. Finally, the district is working on credit recovery course in Algebra 1 and possibly English 1. Any questions or comments? Barry?
Yeah, I had one on the schedule side of things. We've always talked about getting more instructional time with the whatever the period day is. I mean, whether it be passing time or lunches, how is that being discussed in the scheduling process?
The committee itself didn't get details on that. We just
Okay.
heard that the high school administration and team and probably, incorporating staff and decision-making is working on that. So I don't know if.
So Barry, this is different than the conversation. So, prior to us going out on the pandemic, we were in committees in both the middle school and high school and looking at really like what we thought were the best instructional schedules. And so the shift, this year when we made the shifts in the schedules, obviously it was to accommodate as many students as possible in, the pandemic, because we had to kind of watch lunches. So next year, because we're kind of planning for multiple different possibilities at the same time, like what if, things remain as they are? How are we going to do this for a full day? We're basically planning schedules around how we can fit the number of students we have into the building, and more importantly, if there's still restrictions, well, as importantly, if there's still restrictions for lunch, how are we going to make the lunches work? Because if we can make lunches work, which we're making work, then we can ensure that we're running these full days. So what's going to have to happen at some point is there will be some point where we go back to these committees and look at scheduling again and look at really what's the best design for instruction. Because right now, the best design is any design that allows us to get all the kids in the building and there for a full day.
So it's you're walking them back in, then you're thinking about the other side. I was just trying to, if those conversations be kept in the process together. I don't know but it sounds like they're a little bit separate from each other.
They are a little bit separate, and even the way that you're going to run a committee to be involved in the conversations will be slightly different depending on, why we're making a decision. So.
Thanks. And
Jill? Sorry, Jill, I have a quick question. I'm ignorant on what a credit recovery course is, or the need for it, or what it looks like.
Yeah, so credit recovery is different from the remediation. So when we're planning the remediation, we can target students right now, which is how we were able to look at our, district assessments and determine which students might benefit from this additional, small group kind of instruction over the summer, in-person instruction. That's different from credit recovery. Credit recovery is when you're in the high school and you're actually failing a course, and there are rules on that. So like when you accelerate a course and you skip, let's say you decide you're going to accelerate and take geometry and skip it and go into algebra 2, that requires like 120 credit hours. When you're doing credit recovery, that means you sat for the year for the course, but you did not pass it, in which case we have to do 60 credit hours. So we can't actually determine that program yet, because you have to wait until the end of the year and you have to see like which kids actually do not pass a course. And I mean, you can anticipate it, obviously. We're kind of tracking things now. And the hope would be that, while we wouldn't be able to create an entire summer school this year, there might be specific courses where we are able to offer credit recovery. And one of the areas that we've really been looking closely at is Algebra 1, because, you need Algebra 1 to progress anywhere in math. And so many of our kids who come into the high school taking Algebra 1 might already be our kind of maybe a little more students who struggle a bit more with math. And, they might be our freshmen who were here for the first time. And so if we're able to offer credit recovery and start them kind of stronger and more successfully as sophomores. That's what we're watching right now.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have a question
Jill, you're
on,
muted.
can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So I have questions on the summer program, and so I would like to know like how were these students identified. So in the letter it says that about 360 students across the districts. How were these students identified? Is it a particular assessment that we did to the students, and what is the percentage of these students allocation? Like, okay, how many students that are identified from the high school and how many are from the middle school? I just want to get an idea of the percent of each school, and then also that there is another like as asynchronous enrichment program. So what type of program is this that specifically that we offer to other group of students? And are these like discretionary or optional, or what do we do?
So, good questions, and so there are many different answers, and that would be because at each, what we did is I met with the supervisors, and we really focused right in the beginning on English and math. Those were the two areas, and so we looked across K-12 at the internal assessments that we give, and so they could be, guided reading level, they could be, SLOSN, they could be like a word analysis task, like different. And then, we looked at our assessments also with math. Now, it changed as we went up through the grades, right? Because we actually used different internal assessments. In some cases, what we did, because we also administered MAP, universally for the first time this year, is after we did our initial assessment, we compared it with MAP. And then what we tried to do was to take these lists. So we tried to identify flag kids at a district level, but then give it back to the schools. And so the supervisors worked with the ETSs, the elementary teaching specialists in K-6, and then really in the middle school and high school, more directly with the counseling office or the MTSS, our multi-tiered system committees, to kind of review and make sure that, we hadn't missed students. So I don't remember all the numbers offhand, but what I can tell you is initially in K4, we probably invited the first week about 300 and maybe 50 kids to begin with, either for English language arts or for math, or in some cases it was, for both programs. After the first week, based on the responses, because maybe, across K-8, we had 200 responses the first week, we went back and we had a second tier of students who we had also identified, and then we invited additional students. We had about, the last time I looked at this, maybe last week, it was a 40% of parents in K-8, accepted the program. And at the high school, it dropped considerably. There were only about 20%. Fewer kids who were targeted to begin with, and then 20%. We are offering transportation too, because we thought that might be something that would help parents. We do have parents reaching out currently and asking, specifically what the hours are, and we're working on it. We'll have that out very soon. But part of what we're doing, because it's a 2-hour program each day, is there'll be kids who come in from like 8 to 10, and then we will have the same teacher there, but a second group of students who are coming in, from 10:15 to 12:15. Meanwhile, if you were identified for both programs, you'll come in the morning at 8 and you'll stay for that 4-hour program. So that's what we're working on for the kids who we kind of targeted for additional support. But again, this is optional. The online platform, so we created a summer platform last year, and it was all subject areas across all grade levels. And again, it's something that the supervisors really build. And it just provided ongoing practice that students could use throughout the year. So that gave us a good start for this year, and we're working from it, but we're actually trying to build it. So if there are online resources that we have this year, we can, have links to those resources. We could have suggestions for guided practice, videos. And again, it wouldn't be something people have to do, but it might be something that people have time to do and they would like to do. And it would, we'd like to think support students so that, when they go back in September, they feel, ready to tackle school again. So, but we're still working on that platform, and information will be going out about it.
So Dr. Jones, so I know that because those are by invite students. So you're talking about the providing the transportation, right? So do that like apply to all the students that who would need for the program, or some of the students that the transportation can be resolved by their own family? So what was in the plan, and how much you think that is it doable, or is just in the planning, or you already have a good framework there?
No, I think it's, and Peter, wherever you are, feel free to pipe in. I think it's pretty doable at this point. When we sent out the surveys to parents and asked them whether or not they were interested, and we gave them the dates, we asked them right in that first survey whether or not they would need transportation. So that's something that we've been working on with Peter Stars and the transportation department. So we it looks like it is doable. But again, one of the things I think you kind of are saying, and it's true, is like our ESY program that we have for students, with IEPs for special ed, that is something that's been ongoing. So this was really, we're building a program that didn't exist before. So, it's been an interesting experience, but we're actually excited about it. So.
Thank you. Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Anybody else before I move on? Thank you, Ms. Jones. That was good. It's worth spending the time because it's been such a tough year, and if kids did fall behind, this is a great way to get a lot of them back up to speed. The last thing we talked about was regarding academic integrity, how the supervisors shared that they use certain platforms such as Turnitin and Google and features such as Google Originality Reports and Go Guardian in grades 5 to 8, which limits students from opening up tabs on their Chromebooks during assessments and instruction. However, with these platforms, teachers are finding, particularly in the upper grades, that some students are submitting assignments that don't necessarily reflect original student work. So they're keeping an eye on this, and they're doing things to actually change the type of assessments. That's the main goal, is to not just have memorization, just take it in and regurgitate it out, and things that could be copied, but different types of assessments. Designing the assessments really is important, especially in the hybrid world right now, virtual, hybrid, in person. We adjourned at 8:40, and that's it. Any questions on the last part?
Yes, Jill. Question on the new platform. So are we going to have this implemented before the school end, or these are shooting for?
We have it now. These are the items.
Oh, okay. So it's already in place.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Go Guardian is in grades 5 to 8. That might be expanded. Is that right, Karen? Or
yeah, well, yes, as it would be expanded if we expand the one-to-one. So Go Guardian right now is in 5 to 8 because that's where we have one-to-one. High school, it's bring your own devices. If we go one-to-one in K4 next year or at either level, we would be able to expand the use of Go Guardian. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. We're all set. Our next meeting, I don't have that on the calendar here. On this minutes.
Oops.
I could swing back later.
It lists May 19th on the agenda.
Yeah.
It's May
Okay.
19th.
Okay, thanks. I was looking at the minutes, not the agenda. Thanks all.
Thank you, Mrs. Gladstone. Next, we're up to community relations, and that one, we have our next meeting tomorrow night. Next, we have finance, facilities, and transportation. Mr. Singer.
Thank you. The committee met at 5 p.m. on May 3rd. In attendance was myself, Ms. Lee, Mr. Walker, Ms. Barlow, Mr. Stars, Dr. Ficara, and Mr. Lumsky. In addition, Athletic Director Mr. Maggio and Manager of Buildings and Grounds Mr. Santoro attended the meeting for the initial discussion. Our first discussion was on the grounds. The committee had a conversation with Mr. Maggio and Mr. Santoro concerning the grounds operations processes and the athletic field's conditions. Expanding in part on the presentation that was provided by Mr. Stars at the last board meeting. The recommendation from the committee, it's less of recommendation and more action items that are taking place. The athletic director and the manager of buildings and grounds have been directed to meet monthly to discuss the needs and maintenance of the fields. Mr. Maggio was also directed to provide his own assessment of the fields and which will be included, and he will be included in the Solutions Architecture's field walkthrough for their district assessment. Anybody have any questions on that? Seeing none. Mr. Stars then provided updates on their on projects, the schedules for the facilities assessment, which will be completed in early June, with a report to be filed at the end of June. The BRRSD generator, for which work will begin next week, and installation is expected by the end of July. The door access control project with all schools to go live by the end of May, with the exception of the high school, which will go live in the fall to avoid any disruptions of instruction, and any summer projects which were recently awarded. The committee had no recommendations at this time. Any questions? All right. The committee had a discussion on senior parking fees and determined that the student parking fees in policy regulation 5514 did not need to be changed for the upcoming year. So there was no recommendation at this time. Any questions? The NJ SIG safety grant discussion, Mr. Stars informed the committee of the grant this year, which we will receive $44,000, $44,501 to be exact, to be used towards repairing concrete and asphalt trip hazards district-wide. The committee recommends the application approval, which is on tonight's agenda. Any questions, which we can also handle later. Then we reviewed the business agenda. The committee reviewed the business agenda for tonight's meeting, with particular conversations around purchases, NJSIAA dues, before and after care programs, and the new student activity account, all of which are on tonight's agenda. The committee was also informed of upcoming transportation, food service equipment, and boiler maintenance bids, which will be included in the May 25th agenda for action. The committee approved all of the action items. Any questions? The committee then discussed fund balance projection. We reviewed projections from the district's year-end fund balance, along with items for which purchase orders will be issued prior to the fiscal year end. The committee endorses the current year spending for bus maintenance, for bus maintenance and fire alarm replacement projects. Other items will be reviewed at the June FFT meeting. Any questions? We then discussed in-person board meetings. We continued our discussion about logistical considerations and possible additional costs to return to in-person board meetings. And we were advised, we received advice from board counsel on that issue. The cost estimates are going to be provided to the committee, and I believe that the board has received those as well. Any questions on that?
Steve, I just had a couple questions. Oh, sorry, did somebody else have a question?
Oh, you go, Lucy.
Okay. I was just curious. So when we were looking at the in-person Board of Education meetings and some of the costs associated, did we think about ways to like minimize costs, like as far as what could be potentially volunteer versus what had to be staff? I know that's been a suggestion for a lot of different avenues this past year. So I was just curious, did we look at different things like that and settle on like what staff were needed for different roles and things like that, that none of this could be done by volunteers?
I mean, and Peter, you're welcome to chime in, but the largest expense was police staffing, and I don't think we can do that on a volunteer basis. And Peter, you want to talk about custodial staffing?
Well, the other staffing is like either tech related or custodial. And generally speaking, you know, we wouldn't have any type of volunteers to do that type of work because some of that is unionized and negotiated contracts. And also there's probably liability issues that we want to avoid.
Great, thanks. Yep, sounds like you guys thought about it and you deemed that it's necessary to have specific staff that's hired by the district or police for these meetings. And that's an expense that we wouldn't be able to remove through volunteers. Is that an accurate interpretation?
I think so.
Awesome. Just curious. Thanks.
When?
Can you just provide a little bit more specifics if you can about the advice of counsel regarding in-person meetings?
Peter, I'm going to let you tackle that one.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Some of the questions that were asked were pertaining to the requirements for public participation and holding if once we go into back to in-person meetings, do the same requirements for virtual meetings stand? And the answer was no, that as long as we're in person, those requirements for providing the same type of access are not legally required.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Lastly, we had discussion on the following topics: tech plan presentation, which is anticipated to be taking place in June; outdoor mask policy for events; the BYOD program, as Ms. Jones mentioned; the status of the long-range facilities plan; the CSA summer programs; instructions for the grab-and-go meals that students receive. And we were advised that the administration has reached out to the township about concerns regarding the crosswalk between the high school and the YMCA. At this time, there are no recommendations. Any questions? All right. The committee adjourned at 8:21 p.m. Our next meeting is June 7th at 5 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singer. We are now up to personnel with Mrs. Hurley.
Hi, yeah, we're going to meet on Monday, the 17th.
Thank you. And next, we're up to any liaison or delegate reports. Okay, seeing none. Before we get to the first opportunity for public comment, I wanted to mention 3 walk-on items that will be added to personnel for action items. The first one is resolution number personnel 21-38. And this is be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the interim superintendent, approves the following certificated appointment. Megan Corliss for principal at BRRMS, effective date July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022, at a salary of $180,000. And so that's the first one I've got. The second one is for resolution number personnel 21-39. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the interim superintendent, approves the following certificated appointment for Tally Axelrod for principal for Hillside, effective date July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022, at a salary of $153,000. And the last one is personnel 21-40. And this is resolved that the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the interim superintendent, approves the following non-certificated appointments and contracts. And that is for Paul Roth for Manager of Information Technology, for both to start on or about May 17th, 21 through June 30th, 21. As well as July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, at a salary of $150,000. So I just wanted to read those prior to the first opportunity for public comment, since that's related to our action items. So individuals and or groups are invited to present their concerns, comments, and requests to the Board of Education at this time for action items only. In accordance with board policy, members of the public are allotted this opportunity to address the board for a maximum of 3 minutes during this period of the meeting. In the event it appears the public comment portion of the meeting may exceed 30 minutes, the presiding officer may limit each statement made by a participant to 2 minutes duration or less, depending on the number of participants. As this meeting is being conducted remotely as a virtual meeting, public comments can be made via the following options. Joining the meeting at https://bit.ly/3b6kh2r. Calling in at 1-415-655-0001, access code 182-258-0489. And lastly, email or letter received by the board secretary prior to 6 p.m. indicating the person's desire for the email to be read as public comment. Any and all public comments submitted by email will be reviewed by all members of the Board of Education. However, where the number of emailed public comments are excessive, the board reserves the right to group and summarize duplicative comments as authorized by NJAC 5:39-1.4F. All comments submitted by email, whether read aloud in full or summarized, will be noted for the record. Either of the first two methods will place you as an attendee of the meeting. During this public comment section, if you wish to speak, raise your hand if you are on the computer or press *3 to raise your hand from the phone. You will be moved to a panelist role so that you may provide your comments. And before I open it up to public comment, I would like to mention a few things. First of all, I want to make sure that the public is aware that per policy 164.6, we are allowed to summarize duplicative emails as necessary, and that would be on a board meeting by board meeting basis. For tonight, we will not be summarizing those comments, but we want to make the public aware that going forward, if we do have a lot of emails being sent in, that we will be taking advantage of that part of the policy. Because we do need to focus on the main business of the board meetings, which is managing, $160 million plus budget. And we need to make sure we're focusing on the personnel and the budget and other issues that we need to address. If you want to be sure that your comment is heard, then you want to call into the meeting because those comments are not summarized. So if you're concerned as to whether or not your email will be summarized, then please call in instead. And also, I do want to mention that even if it is summarized, the board does read those emails. We do get them and they are still read by us. The other thing I want to call out, since we may need to summarize emails, we need time to do that. And instead of the deadline being 6 p.m. on the days of the board meetings, we will move that deadline in the future to 4 p.m. so that we do have time to accurately summarize any emails that we do receive. So again, I just want to make sure everyone is aware. Again, one last thing before I go open it up for public comment. If any of the board members feel I missed anything or want to clarify anything I just said, please feel free to interject at this time. All good? Okay, thank you. And I will now open it up for public comment on action items only. Mr. Stars, do we have anyone wanting to make comments?
We do, and we do not have any emails pertaining to action items, so it's just a public comment. So at this time, I am moving forward Laura Kress as a panelist, so she hopefully should be able to speak. Laura, are you there? Ms. Kress, can you, oh, here we go. Hold on one second.
Okay, can you hear me now?
You got you.
All right, listen, you will hear from me again later, of course, but I just want to congratulate Mrs. Corliss. You're the right person at the right time for this job. You work hard, you always have the students and staff's best interest at heart, and I look forward to working with you. So good job, Megan. That's it for now. I'll come back at the second.
Okay. I will put her back as an attendee. And next up will be Mrs. Iatesta, who's a member of now a panelist here. Let me, Ms. Iatesta, can you hear me? I don't see opportunity to unmute you. So are you? Ms. Iatesta, going once, going twice. I'm going to move you back to as an attendee, and hopefully we can get you up later. Next is Ms. Steffner. Ms. Steffner is now made a panelist. And Ms. Steffner, can you hear me? Ms. Steffner, I've got your hand raised and you are as a panelist, but I have no microphone that I can unmute you from. Oh, here we go. You're unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
I would like to also echo Laura's comments. Having had the privilege of serving as your interim principal for the past 2 years at the middle school, I can tell you that you've made a great choice in Megan. She has been my right-hand person. She has taken over the scheduling, created all the different schedules during this pandemic. She is an amazing leader, and I can tell you that I have found her to make every single decision that it's in the best interest of students. So congratulations to the board on making a great choice, and congratulations, Megan.
Thank you. I will move you back as an attendee and try again with Ms. Iatesta. Mrs. Iatesta, hold on one second. So you are now a panelist, and I do not see a mute microphone button for you to unmute. And hand went away. So I'm going to move her back to an attendee, and let me see if there's any others that have their hand raised. I do believe so. There are no others that have their hand raised.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Iatesta, if you want to send a comment to the board since you couldn't make it here, we could at least read it offline. Okay, we'll close that section of public comment. We're now up to approval of minutes, and we've got April 14th and 20th closed session, April 21st regular and closed session, April 22nd regular and closed session, April 26th regular and closed session, April 27th regular and closed session, and April 28th regular and closed session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Levitt. Ms. Levitt?
Sorry, I thought I unmuted. Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Ms. Sandler?
I'm going to abstain. I think I got this right, except for the April 27th meetings.
Okay, got you. Which is, well, your April 27th is yes?
Yes.
Mrs. Hurley?
Yes.
Mrs. Gladstone?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Joshi?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Barlow?
Abstain on April 27th, regular and closed, and yes on everything else. Okay. We are now, motion carries. We are now up to approval of action items. And the first is Personnel 21-35 through Personnel 21-40.
So moved.
Is there a motion?
Yes. So moved.
And, okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Levitt,
Yes.
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Ms. Sandler,
Yes to all, but abstain on 2136.
Ms. Hurley,
Yes.
Ms. Gladstone,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Joshi,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Yes, motion carries. And I would just like to welcome publicly Ms. Corliss into her new position. Ms. Axelrod and Mr. Roth, we're really looking forward to you working in the district and, looking forward to great things. So welcome aboard. And now we are up to curriculum 21-21. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Levitt,
Yes.
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Ms. Sandler,
Yes.
Ms. Hurley,
Yes.
Ms. Gladstone,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Joshi,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Yes, motion carries. We're now up to business 21-119 through business 21-126. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I just want to thank people for the gifts, Bradley Gardens for the water fountain filling station. I'm sorry, did someone say something? Okay, Ms. Perez for the Rifton Pacer Walker and Crim School PTO for the classroom supplies. Roll call, please.
Ms. Levitt,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Ms. Sandler,
Yes.
Ms. Hurley,
Yes.
Ms. Gladstone,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Joshi,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Yes, motion carries. We're now up to special services 21-36. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Levitt,
Yes.
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Ms. Sandler,
Yes.
Ms. Hurley,
Yes.
Ms. Gladstone,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Joshi,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Barlow.
Yes, motion carries. We're now up to other 21-44 and 21-45. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please. I'm sorry.
Ms.
Roll call,
Levitt,
please.
Yes.
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Hurley,
Yes.
then? Ms. Hurley?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Gladstone,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Joshi,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Barlow.
Yes, motion carries. We're now up to policy 21-39. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Levitt,
Yes.
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Hurley,
Yes.
Ms. Gladstone,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Joshi,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Barlow.
Yes, motion carries. We're now up to the second opportunity for public comment. Individuals and/or groups are invited to present their concerns, comments, and requests to the Board of Education at this time for any matters. In accordance with board policy, members of the public are allotted this opportunity to address the board for a maximum of 3 minutes during this period of the meeting. In the event it appears the public comment portion of the meeting may exceed 30 minutes, the presiding officer may limit each statement made by a participant to 2 minutes duration or less, depending on the number of participants. As this meeting is being conducted remotely as a virtual meeting, public comments can be made via the following options. Joining the meeting at https://bit.ly/3b6kh2r, calling in at 1-415-655-0001, access code 182-258-0489. Email or letter received by the board secretary prior to 6 p.m. indicating the person's desire for the email to be read as public comment. However, where the number of emailed public comments are excessive, the board reserves the right to group and summarize duplicative comments as authorized by NJAC 5:39-1.4F. All comments submitted by email, whether read aloud in full or summarized, will be noted for the record. Either of the first two methods will place you as an attendee of the meeting. During this public comment session, if you wish to speak, raise your hand if you are on the computer or press *3 to raise your hand from the phone. You will be moved to a panelist role so that you may provide your comments. And again, for tonight, we will not be summarizing the emails, but going forward at each board meeting, we'll make that decision based on the volume of emails we receive. And Mr. Stars, for tonight, given that the number of emails I know we have, we are going to limit public comment to 2 minutes. And that would also apply to the emails.
Okay. Due to Mrs. Iatesta's tech problems, I do have her message that she would like. I want to congratulate Megan Corliss on her appointment to BRMS principal. Megan is an outstanding, strong, and compassionate leader, a true middle school educator, and absolutely the best person to lead the middle school. BRMS means a great deal to me, and I am so happy for Megan and for all of the students and staff at BRMS. Congratulations, Megan. Next is from Deanna Nye. I would like to take this moment to thank you all for the time you have put in to make sure our children are still learning and at the same time being kept safe during a pandemic. We understand all too well that everything is up in the air because of the governor, and you can only do so much. He is the guidance. He is then one that says what goes. I can assure you that I've been proactively emailing the governor and the assembly, including our local senators and folks in the education system, to ensure that New Jersey comes up with a plan for everyone and not just one side of the argument. No one family is more important. We thank you for understanding that there are children like mine who have adopted so well to virtual learning, all while their health is being taken into consideration and put first. A virtual option works in our world of IEPs, health plans, doctor, and specialist visits, something of which the vast majority of parents in this town do not understand, but they claim they do. If I can email the governor, so can parents on all sides of this argument. He's the sole decision maker, but I do hope BRRSD will stand up to him for a virtual choice and not let money and funding dictate the safety of my children and so many others. Russian roulette is not ideal, and the governor has been made aware of this. So we thank you for constantly trying to find out what the governor's plan is. Sincerely, Deanna Nye. Next is from Karen DeLesio. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for your flexibility and understanding throughout this school year. This has been a year like no other, as we all know. Thank you for allowing us flexibility to work from home and accommodating so many of us early in the school year. Thank you for adhering to safety protocols throughout the school year, maintaining 6-foot distancing and no lunches. This has allowed our district to remain open since October with no major outbreaks to speak of. You have kept your teachers, staff, and students safe, and it hasn't gone unnoticed. As a teacher and parent in the district, I appreciate the lengths you have gone to keep us safe while still getting students back to school. Both my children, one at the intermediate level and one at the high school, have returned to 5 days and are happy to be back in and on a regular schedule. We all appreciate the fact that the district continues to keep the safety of students and staff the utmost priority. Please forward this email to the Board of Ed members to thank them as well. Karen DeLesio. Next is from Donna Butler. My name is Donner Butler, and I live at 1088 Eastbrook Road, Martinsville. I've been a preferred substitute in the district since 1988. I had great trepidation when school opened this year. I felt uncertain as to the precautions the school would take to guard my safety. Since I go to all the elementary schools, I decided not to return until I could be assured everything was being done to protect not only me, but my students. At the BREA meetings, I heard what safety measures were being implemented. It was in late October that I decided to see this for myself. My first impressions were quite good. The hallways were divided with tape, arrows showed the direction to walk, and 6 feet distances were required. Bathroom monitors were in place, ensuring safe occupancy in the student bathrooms. Masks were worn at all times and only removed when it was snack time, and we were usually outside, spaced 6 feet apart. In the pre-K, where I frequently work, each child had a bin of their own toys, which were disinfected at day's end. Bathrooms in our classrooms were cleaned, and tables, doors, knobs, and faucet handles were sprayed regularly by our custodians. Student Chromebooks are cleaned daily, as well as desks. I'm so glad I came back to school and know that in September I will gladly start because I saw firsthand how you are continuing to protect all of us by listening to the science. Sincerely, Donna Butler. Next is from Kelly Mumber. Dear Dr. Fakara and Board of Education members, as this week brings welcome thanks to teachers from those we serve, I'm humbled and remember to be grateful for the work that I do. Kind words make a difference and let me know that I make an impact every day I show up and bring the best of myself to my students. With that in mind, I would like to take a moment to give thanks and gratitude to all of you for supporting your staff during this most challenging year. Knowing that our safety has been consistently prioritized despite the loud and insistent campaigning of others who do not understand the complexity of the demands they are making or how those demands may impact our daily operations make me proud to work for BRRSD. Thank you for always doing your best to keep us safe while continuing to find ways to help us deliver the best experiences for all our students. Truly, Kelly Mumber. Next is from Sue Cacciatore. Dear Dr. Fakara and Bridgewater Raritan Board of Ed, I would like to express my gratitude for the manner in which you have led the district during such extraordinary times. You responsibly followed the CDC and Governor's office, allowing the most recent science to guide decision-making. You shouldered the task of having to consider the safety of the community while meeting with the needs of our student population. And with each new step forward, staff and students received full transparency as to what the rationale and plan were. The biggest obstacle may have been different points of view from those you serve. I cannot imagine how challenging your task has been. Upon looking back, it is clear that you acted consistently and thoughtfully at every turn. This is a tremendous accomplishment. As an educator, thank you for safeguarding the wellness of me, my family, my student population, and my colleagues. As a grandparent of a first grader at Van Holten, thank you for gradually improving her educational experience according to the most recent scientific data. On behalf of the students I partner with every day, thank you for serving our community. Your work does not go unnoticed. As they continue to recover from the events of the last year, they are looking to September for a restart. Lastly, please know that the PTO has honored the teachers at BRMS, expressing their support for the work we have all done. It was a beautiful demonstration of appreciation. It was a beautiful demonstration of appreciation for all of us. Thank you for considering my comments. Sincerely, Sue Cacciatore. Next is from Sandra Arnold. To the members of the Board of Education, in times of great stress, it is often difficult to look at the positives instead of focusing on the challenges. However, as the year is coming to a close, I wanted to share some of what went well this year, largely because of the decisions you made. I really appreciate that we continue to have half days this year. As the weather is getting warmer, teaching in a non-air conditioned classroom makes it hard to keep students' attention. This year with masks creates an even harder task. The fact that we do not need to try to keep the students focused in the hottest part of the day makes a huge difference. Also, having students, particularly those at home, stay on a computer for an entire school day is not good for anyone. Having the shortened days really helped. I appreciate all that was done to keep us safe and healthy. CDC guidelines were followed even when there was backlash for doing so. Ventilation systems were checked on regularly in order to keep airflow. I never felt like I was putting myself at risk being at school. In addition, I felt like you did your best to accommodate teachers when you could. I personally had a medical procedure this year and needed to quarantine prior to the procedure after receiving a COVID test. I was given permission to teach from home, enabling me to continue to provide instruction to my students. As hard as this year has been, by working together, we have been able to make it a successful one for our students. Regards, Sandra Arnold. Next is from Michelle Hecht. To the Board of Ed and BR administration. As I reflect on the past year of teaching, it is easy to fall into a very negative mindset. I would be lying if I said I wasn't anxious for my job to go back to some resemblance of what it looked like prior to the pandemic. However, with that said, I want to thank the administration and the BOE for following guidelines and keeping the safety of staff and students as a priority. Decisions have had to be made very quickly, and they were not always well received by the community, but there was always the same goal in mind: keep the students and staff safe. I appreciate the progress you made toward getting more in-person instruction for the students. I appreciate that you're part of assisting the staff in the incredibly frustrating search for vaccine appointments. Thank you for trying to do the best for our staff and students during an unprecedented and difficult year. Warm regards, Michelle Heck. Next is from Diane Kearns. Dear Board of Education members and Bridgewater Raritan administrators, as we recently celebrated Teacher Appreciation Week and staff received compliments and encouragement from students and community members alike, I would like to take time to voice my appreciation as a teacher here at Bridgewater. I appreciate the consideration given to the gradual reopening of our schools. Beginning the year with the flexibility to work from home through accommodations was helpful to the many working families that make up our staff. Thank you for consistently following the safety protocols put forth by county and state officials. Social distancing, mask wearing, and disinfection help to ease the minds of staff, students, and families. Maintaining a half-day student schedule has allowed time for teachers to adopt lessons to be taught remotely, meet with students in need, assess the immense amount of digital information submitted by students, and attend various professional development opportunities. This year has certainly been unique and challenging, to say the least. Thank you for the effort and time you have put in to help ease the transition as we navigate these uncertain and stressful times. Thank you for your time, Diane Kearns. Next is from Joanne Herring. Dear members of the Board of Education and administrators, as we close and on the last 30 days of this school year, I cannot help reflect back on all we have been through as a school community. There have been more changes this year than any of us can count. While many have differing opinions on how schools should have looked this year, I think parents, students, teachers, staff, and administrators can all agree that it was a challenge for everyone. This is my 19th year teaching kindergarten at JFK, yet this year it felt like my first year. I admit that with every change, like many of my colleagues, I felt anxious, nervous, and skeptical. How was I going to communicate with 5-year-olds through a computer when many of my students have never touched a computer? How was I going to engage them and create a sense of community? How was I going to teach them our kindergarten curriculum virtually? Would I be able to keep myself and my students safe and healthy? Thankfully, both my students and their parents rose to the challenge and worked closely with me and my co-teacher to make the best of this year. I admit that I was relieved when we were told we would be starting the school year virtually, but then became nervous about having to go into school to teach. I quickly found that it was easier and felt more like school teaching from my classroom. I was pleasantly surprised how our 5-year-olds were able to adapt and communicate well with us and their classmates. My co-teacher and I tweaked how we introduced our class rules and expectations. We had to change how to teach. For 2 technology challenged seasoned teachers, we quickly learned how to use technology in ways we never knew was possible. We now move like experts from laptop to desktop to smartboard to document camera throughout our day. We then made a transition to hybrid teaching in different cohorts to having our in-person students every day. Each change brought frustration and feelings of anxiousness, but it did also eventually bring a feeling of satisfaction and pride when I found that while it was not easier the way anyone would want it to be, I was reaching my students and they were in fact learning. This is not to say that they all would be academically during a normal school year, but through doing our daily and quarterly assessments, I have seen all my students learn and grow in every way. I did not do this alone. Not only did I have my co-teacher to work with, but I had the support of my colleagues and principal in my building, but also beyond. From top administrators to the members of the Board of Education to our union, I have felt supported. The decisions have shown that they value the safety and health of not only the students, but the staff. Karen Jones was kind enough to take time out of her overwhelming schedule to meet with me and my co-teacher during the fall to discuss concerns we had for our kindergarten teachers, kindergarten students, and English language learners. She patiently listened and gave feedback on items from summer programs to kindergarten orientation and let us know that she was always available. Dr. Vaccaro listened when I had knee replacement surgery, but wanted to be the one to start a kindergarten extended day program instead of having a substitute teacher. Jamie Kochis was literally in my classroom numerous times to help troubleshoot and answer all my novice technology questions. She listened and understood how it was more important than ever for kindergarten students to have technology classes once again. I have heard board members ask question after question to ensure safety and health is always being considered. All of us would like to have a normal school year with 5 full days. I'm thankful that our administration board understand that teachers are working their contracted hours and beyond to make this year work. Keeping students engaged in this manner is beyond challenging, and adding 2 more hours while they sit in one spot, whether virtual or in person, does not necessarily equal more learning. It brings more challenges, especially as the days get warmer in non-air conditioned classrooms while wearing masks for both students and staff. I'm grateful for the support and respect I've received in many different ways from so many members of the BR school community. I thank you for all your time and attention, and hopefully healthier and happier learning days are ahead for all of us. Kind regards, Joanne Herring. The last one is from Tara Triosa. Dear Peter Stars and Bridgewater Raritan Board of Education, I'm writing to you today as an intervention specialist at Eisenhower Intermediate School to thank you for your commitment to following the guidelines for the Department of Health and to reopen our schools slowly. It has not been an easy year for all involved, but your dedication to keeping all of us safe is much appreciated. Keeping our school days to half days has helped teachers have time to create lessons and meet with students for extra help in the afternoon. As the days are getting warmer, wearing a mask in a hot classroom with no air conditioning is a real health concern. By not reopening full days at this time, we will still have some difficulty with air quality as the weather warms up, but we will limit it to a short time period. I wanted to share what my year has been like and how stressful it has been. I was asked a couple of days before school started to cover a teacher who went on leave until November 15th, 2020. Then I was asked to cover a maternity leave replacement until someone was hired on February 1st, 2021, while trying to do my job as an intervention specialist. Without having the afternoon to plan and learn how to use all the technology required in a virtual teaching situation, I would have never been able to survive. Then to change into a hybrid model with needing to make hard copies and making sure your attention was given to virtual students as well as in-person students was the most challenging. It would not have been as effective if we did not have the afternoons to plan. Again, thank you to the Board of Education for the commitment to our safety and the slow reopening of our schools. Sincerely, Tara Triosa. All right. So now we go to the public, and first up to move to a panelist is Elizabeth Colucci. Elizabeth, are you there? Elizabeth, are you there? I do not have a microphone to unmute you. There it is. Thank you.
Oh, great. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Elizabeth Colucci. I am not only a community member, but I'm also a 7th grade teacher at our middle school. First of all, I want to congratulate you on your choice of Megan Corliss for our principal. I'm personally thrilled, and she did such an amazing job this year, keeping us aware of what was going on and you know, making changes really quickly on a dime. And I'm happy to see that she's been rewarded for that, and thrilled to have her be our principal. I'm sure that I speak for a majority of the staff, and I've been listening to all these letters, so that certainly is true. When I express my sincere gratitude for all that the board and the superintendent have done to keep us safe during this pandemic. When we first returned to in-person school in October, I have to admit, I was terrified. My husband is in a high-risk category, and I was concerned for his safety. I did have the option of retiring, but I was hesitant to make that choice because I really love what I do, and I just didn't feel it was the time for me to go. So I thought I would go in and kind of take it one day at a time. I'm aware of the concerns that parents in the districts have, and I can only imagine how difficult it's been for them. Their children's education obviously is extremely important to them, and so I appreciate how difficult it's been for them. That said, I'm here this evening to thank both the board and the superintendent for following all the CDC guidelines. Because of this, I was able to continue working without fear of becoming ill. In the beginning of the year, reasonable accommodations that I asked for were provided, and I felt that all of my concerns were addressed in a very positive manner. Without that, I think we would have lost a lot more staff than we did, either through resignations or retirements or extended quarantines. I also must mention that the staff at the middle school did an amazing job, how they rose to the occasion. They made all the necessary changes that they needed to do. Everyone walked around with a big smile on their faces. They worked as a team to provide the best educational experience possible, and I'm proud to be a part of this group. Again, I'm truly grateful for your decision to do this slowly and to do what was right, and it gave me peace of mind. It made me feel like I was safe and could continue to come to work every day. So good night, everybody, and stay well.
Thank you, Mrs. Colucci.
Next will be Ms. Kress again, and you're unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Can't hear you.
Okay, so we have 2 minutes. This is probably about 4 minutes, so I'm going to clean it up and then I'll send it to the Breeze to be hopefully printed in soon. So I'd like to thank the community, the Board of Ed, and the administration for supporting the students and school staff this year. To that point, I asked a few staff members to speak tonight. You're hearing them either through letters or through personal conversation. I also want to thank the PTOs for all their support and hard work last week, celebrating the Teacher Staff Appreciation Week. I have to say the middle school PTO leaders and parents were awesome to us, so thank you. And about this year, it has truly been a year like no other. And to that point, this year brought the school staff together in many ways. All 4 associations in the administration have worked more closely than ever to get this district up and running. It may not have been or may not have happened as quickly as some preferred or as graduated as others preferred, but as of last month, any family that prefers their students to be in person is here 5 days a week, and we were still adhering to the guidance of the CDC and the local health officials. In working to the point of being there 5 days a week, many staff members across the district have had to change positions, and we heard from Tara and or classrooms more than once, especially in grades 5 through 12, due to the fluid situations related to COVID. So, but I also want to acknowledge that we're not alone in Bridgewater. Across the state, I'm in touch with a lot of other, NJEA leaders and such. All school staff have had to do everything within their power to make it work for our students this year, and they have, and that is how it should be. So I consider this a success. A little history from my perspective. Last summer was quite overwhelming when we started this. The officers of the BREA worked from July 1st with the new administration on the reopening plans requested by the state. We held meetings with every group of staff more than once, of course, virtually. We sharing the plans and easing their very real and understandable fears in coming back to work during a pandemic. The BREA reached out to a local physician, Dr. Boguslawski, who gave his own time. His children do go to school in Bridgewater, and he held 3 Google Meets with different staff members that wanted to talk to him. Is that my 2 minutes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'll send this off. I'll fix it up, but I want to thank the board and I want to thank the administration. And I just want to say I met with a few parents today and it was really productive, and I'm going to take their concerns, and they're really looking forward to working with us together. So I think as a community we should take hold and move on from here. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Kress.
Next will be Cheryl Sunshine Figliano. Hold on one second. Ms. Sunshine Figliano, you're now a panelist. I don't see a microphone to unmute you, but I will wait a few seconds here. Mrs. Figliano, can you hear me? Oh, there you go. Very good.
Can
Go
you
ahead.
hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Sunshine Figliano. I'm a district graduate, parent, and special education teacher at the middle school. I just wanted to thank Dr. Ficarra and the entire board for everything you've done this school year to keep staff and students safe. As we were coming back to school in September, I was faced with a huge decision to take a medical leave as per my doctor's recommendation due to my high-risk medical status, or to trust the district to do what was necessary to keep me safe so that I could return to the classroom with my special needs students. I decided to trust the district, and I'm so happy I did. I've been in person with my students 5 days per week since October 5th, creating the best possible learning environment for them during these unprecedented times. Throughout this time, I was grateful that following the science and professional recommendations always remain the priority of the district. This allowed myself, my colleagues, and my students to experience just a little bit of normalcy each day when the rest of the world was anything but normal. While I've worked harder this year than I've had in any other of my 34 years in the district, I'm grateful for this year and want to thank the board members and Dr. Ficarra for everything they've done to ensure my safety and allowed me to do what I love to do each day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sunshine Figliano.
Okay. And I believe that is all for the public comment.
Okay, so we'll now close that portion of the meeting. Next, we're up to item 15, old business. Does anyone have any old business to discuss? Lynn?
Just checking on what our status is regarding in-person board meetings. I got the costs, but where are we in terms of actually implementing it?
I think, and Mr. Singer, Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think the recommendation when we talked about this in FFT was to look at when school reopens in the fall, full-time, full day, 5 days a week, that would be a good opportunity for us to go back to in-person meetings. And we can talk about it obviously here. That was just the discussion that had taken place there. So what are people's thoughts about this?
Well,
I'll go.
Thanks.
I'm sorry. I'm in favor of in-person board meetings. However, the problem that I have is that we currently have, well, we're down to 76 participants right now. And the advice that we were given is that I believe the max we can hold in the auditorium was 70, right, Peter?
Yes, with the 6-foot distancing was.
Right. So under the current guidance, at 6-foot distancing, we can only hold 70 people at the auditorium. And while there are alternatives that we can consider in terms of additional rooms, the logistics of putting people in different rooms who might want to comment or who might not want to be in a different room or whatever is incredibly difficult right now. So I understand why we might want to push off until the guidance changes. I think that as we've discussed, the trajectory is going that way. So Jackie is correct that the majority of the committee thought it was best to wait until the fall to resume in person.
Yeah, and I agree. I also want to go back, but the logistics of it, I think we need more guidance to see. Because in the event, we've had this happen at the Wade Building, right, where it was standing room only. And we can't do that now. So once everything clears up, I think it would be a good idea to wait as well.
Any other thoughts?
Oh, I'm just in agreement with that. I think it makes sense to wait till September, hopefully when the guidance has changed some.
Okay. So it sounds like at this point in time, we will continue with our current mode of meeting and then look that our target should be that come the new school year, that we also start with a new venue for our meetings going back to in person. Obviously, we need to assess at that time what's going on in our area, but that seems like a reasonable projection. And I'm not saying, Jill?
So
I guess there's a chance if the numbers keep getting better in New Jersey, they keep getting better and better every day, that the distancing could be changed by the state in a month or two, and then then it could be before September, right? So if things are better and more people are vaccinated and more people are outside rather than inside, there's a chance that we could resume with the guidance is going to change from the state, and it could be 3 feet instead of 6 feet, right?
Right. I think, that would be another piece that we need to look at, that if the guidelines shift to 3 feet, by the same token, I would assume in September, if we're still at 6 feet and we've got 100 people showing up at the meeting, we've got the same issue that we have today. But it
We'll have to
seems like a
figure that.
reasonable target to look at the start of the new school year, that we start fresh with things.
So
Jackie,
do we know when we would have a deadline for, making the call. Obviously, if we have to hire police and we have to set up new technology and stuff like that, there's going to be a lead time. So we can't wait till the September
Right.
meeting to decide.
So Peter, when would your deadline be that you would need to know?
I think at least 3 to 4 weeks we need to know.
Okay.
Make it happen.
Well, I guess that we can start preparing for this, right? Like we don't have to wait until we have known that, okay, we're going back to the in-person meeting. I guess that we can start preparing at this time. So whenever the guidelines change, we are ready. We don't have to wait.
Well, I'm assuming you'd have some trouble if you have to hire people for that. I'm sure there's some parts that we could plan ahead. I would think others you couldn't really put the things in motion. But I shouldn't speak. That should be Peter. That
So Jackie, yes, I agree. I think that I meant the technology part of it.
yes.
Yeah, that is something I guess that we can prepare in advance. And as to the people, like other guideline thing or anything relate to the place or whatever, I guess that we need to have like more time to prepare for it. But the technology piece is something that we can start preparing for it.
Agreed.
Peter, at the next, I'm sorry, at the next FFT meeting, can we discuss what that technology is? Because I wouldn't want to spend money on that technology if it's not going to be used in September, unless it was usable in other areas of the district as well. You know what I mean? So if it's something that, like, I wouldn't want to buy it today and then next week have Governor Murphy say we can do 3 feet and suddenly we can have as many people as we want in the auditorium. Unless that could be used elsewhere for other purposes.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, Steve. Yeah, I think that maybe if Peter can give us some plan, like, okay, so what would be needed, right? And then do we have existing ones that can accommodate the need? And what can we do about it? To
Well,
purchase the new equipment is probably not a wise decision because we probably may not need it in the long run.
Well, good thing we have you hired a new manager of IT tonight, so we'll get him working on that right away.
There you go.
Yeah. Barry?
I guess, I mean, to move forward, I think we can move forward potentially sooner seeing the numbers, but I guess I want to see a plan, what we need, the numbers, how the spacing is going to look like, entry and exit. I mean, there's a lot of logistics to this to operate appropriately, stepping up for the microphone, the monitoring of it, how that's done, I think. And when the people come to participate in the meeting, they need to know the plan and you adhere to the plan or, this is the way it is. You're masking up at 6 feet. The guideline, these are the rules in participating in the meeting. I think we need to be very clear. And that's like, I don't mean to be sound like other areas, but I think we need a plan and say, this is how we're doing it. And then lay it out for the community. This is how it's going to work. You're entering this door, you're exiting that door. You'll move these rows that way. You won't be circulating around, those need to be clear about those things. So that plan and guidelines, you need to be, forthright up front, kind of like our public comment. When you come in, here's how it works, public comment, you line up. We need to be very clear about the meeting and how it's organized.
Any other comments? So, I think we're looking for a plan for how to make this happen. Any other old business? New business. Does anyone have anything? Steve?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a meeting last week, so I think we'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge Teacher Appreciation Week and thank all of our excellent staff within the district. So thank you for all you've done.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. And I also wanted to mention, I attended the ceremony to celebrate the Teachers of the Year, as well as the Educational Professionals of the Year. And that was a fantastic ceremony. And we have a lot of great people in our district, a lot of great staff. Those that were recognized as well as those that aren't, 'cause I know that there are many great people that don't necessarily get the award, but we do really appreciate everything that they've done. So thank you, Steve, for bringing that up. Any other new business? Okay, we are going to go back into closed session, and I'll read that in a second. Jean, I don't know if you're able to set up a Zoom call real quick for us. You're on mute.
Yes, I will do it now.
Okay, sorry for the short notice, but
No, that's okay.
you volunteer once, and unfortunately, we keep coming back to you.
No problem at all.
Okay, so let me just read for closed session. Whereas discussion by the board is required on matters that are exceptions to the requirement that a public body hold its meeting in public. And whereas the topics for discussion are the superintendent's search, whereas it is expected that the details of the discussion may be made public as soon as the issues may be acted upon publicly. Be it resolved that the board enter into closed session at this time. I just want to mention that there'll be no action taken afterwards, and we will adjourn from there. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. Good night, everyone. And the board members, please look in your email to join the Zoom meeting.
Maybe a
Have a
couple
good night.
minutes, a little recess, Jackie, before we.
Have a good night.
Yes, take
Yep.
a 3-minute break, okay?
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.